Hold on. Chapter 21, verse 1. This is the Torah reading for the first day of Rosh Hashanah. You have the page?
104.
Yeah, this is the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And okay, so Hashem pakadet Sarah, God remembered Sarah, Kasher Amar, just like he had said, Ayas Hashem was Sarah, Kasher Diber. And God made for Sarah, just like he had spoken. So what is this? God did for Sarah, just like he had spoken. What is going on here? What is going on here? Hold on one second.
What
Hold on one
which book
second.
of the Bible are we talking about?
I'm sorry, you repeat your question?
What book of the Bible are we talking about?
We're doing a Torah reading for Rosh Hashanah. Genesis chapter 21, verse 1. You got it, Sharon?
Is it Shemot?
No, Genesis, Bereshit.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay. Okay, so Hashem remembered Sarah just like he had said, and he did for Sarah just like he had spoken. What is this referring to? Rashi says, well, first of all, the previous passage in the Torah was the passage where Sarah was abducted by Avimelech. And then God made Avimelech, he rescued Sarah by visiting Avimelech with a dream. So, and then Sarah was released. So what's the connection between the two passages? Rashi says, Samach Parsha Zulakan, the Torah puts this passage next to the story of Avimelech to teach you, Kol Mavakesh Rachamim Al Chavero Vu Tzarach Oso Davar Hu Nenet Chio. It teaches us a fundamental idea, which is actually incredibly important for our prayers on the high holidays. It says the reason why this passage is next to the passage of Avimelech is because if you need something, if you pray for your friend, then if you pray for your friend first and you need the same thing, then the one praying will be answered first. As it says, because Avimelech was visited with a punishment after he abducted Sarah. What happened? The verse says, God came, that Avimelech came and he took Sarah. God came to Avimelech in the dream, and he said, "You're going to die for this woman that you took, and she's Bu'uas Baal, she's married." And so then Avimelech did not come close to her the whole night, and the angel prevented him. And so God visited him, and it says that Abraham prayed for Avimelech. This is what God says. It says that Rashi says, Vayitpalel, Abraham prayed on behalf of Avimelech. I think in chapter 20, verse 17. Vayitpalel Abraham el Avimelech, Vayirpal Kimas Avimelech. And God healed him. What was wrong with Avimelech? He had some sort of illness by which he was unable to have anything come out of his body. And so also, not only him, but also all the women of his household, they were unable to give birth. It says in the verse, that God had stopped every single womb in the house of Avimelech on account of Sarah. And then Abraham prayed for Avimelech, and right next to it says Hashem pakadet Sarah. God had already remembered Sarah, meaning to say before he had healed Avimelech, he had remembered Sarah. This teaches us this fundamental idea that if you pray for your friend first, that if you pray for your friend, you'll be healed first. The more you pray for your friend, the more you'll be healed first. That's the powerful idea.
So two things. I mean,
Yeah.
Sarah had to be active a long time if they had to like take the time to realize that no children were born into the household, right? Wouldn't that have taken a while?
Well, no, because that's why the understanding is it wasn't just that it wasn't just that they were unable to give birth, but they were unable to have anything. They were unable to expel anything from their body. So right away they realized what was going on.
Okay. At the time of Rashi,
Meaning to say, Rashi says that the understanding of the womb is not to be taken literally, but rather it refers to every single thing. Meaning to say they couldn't even go to the bathroom.
Okay. At Rashi's time, did they already have these divisions into the different prakim?
No, the divisions into the chapters, not only Christian, but they come much later. They come much later as a way of determining, once you had the printing press, then they were able to divide it like this. That was a way of dividing it. But prior to that, they didn't have those divisions. Didn't have the chapters. I mean, I think that division into chapters started with the printing press, but you could check me on that. But I don't.
But it wouldn't have been known for that.
I don't know. Rashi never refers to chapters in any way. The Rashi only has two basic. Rashi only discusses two types of divisions: the parsha, the weekly portion, but really he discusses that and also the breaks, the paragraph breaks in the Torah, what we call petuchot ustumot, the openings and the closings. The closed ones are where you go to the end of the line, and the openings are where you do the closed ones are where you go to a paragraph break, a tab, and the petuchos are where you go to the end of the line. So those are the two types of passages that Rashi refers to as the breaks. And you see here that this was there was a space in between. So Rashi's commenting why this passage is following it. But the fundamental idea is that we have to, when we gather for prayer, we first have to think about other people when we pray.
So this says
it doesn't really matter the chapter, just says immediately afterwards, meaning the end of the last verse in the previous one is that Abraham prayed, and the next verse is that Sarah was redeemed. So
exactly. Yes, Dan, you asked.
Yes, so the division into chapters was in the early 13th century.
Okay, so
and then the further subdivision into verses was since the mid 16th century.
Okay, so it was around then. I mean,
But it was definitely after Rosh.
If they're saying chapters was in the 13th century, so Rashi was in the 11th century, so that's after him. But they had manuscripts. The big break starts when the reason why we basically adopted chapters is because it's not because that their reading of it is correct, but it makes it much easier to find, because the breaks that we have were basically based upon manuscripts. And it's fine with a manuscript. If you have a manuscript, it doesn't make it easy to find the chapter. But if you have a book, it makes it much easier to find the chapter and verse. So that's why the Jewish sources really, even to this day, don't really refer to chapters. Refer to the parasha. They refer to.
That's one other thing.
Yeah.
This is off topic, but what about the division into the different aliyah?
So the aliyot division, there's not unanimity on how you divide it. That was made, well, first of all, we know that was late because they didn't used to finish the portion every year. Finishing the portion every year and making a holiday about it, Simchas Torah, that's not even mentioned in the Talmud. So that's later than that. Probably, I think the first mention of that is in Egypt in around the 8th century. So clearly you're not going to have the aliyot, the same aliyot that we had when you weren't when you weren't doing the whole portion the way we have it. So it's a later, it's a later, it's a later addition. Yeah. And there's not unanimity, but there are certain rules that you have to follow. Like you can't finish it all. You're not supposed to end on a bad note. You're not supposed to end, but there's a lot of exceptions to the rule. So, anyways, that's the fundamental teaching. Okay. So now, Pakada Saraka Asher Amar Beherayon. He remembered her, meaning to say she was pregnant. So Sarah had actually became pregnant before Avimelech was healed, because he had prayed. So because Abraham prayed for her, God remembered Sarah as he had spoken in the past. Kasher diber, like he had spoken Beleda with childbirth. Ve'echan hi amira, and where is the saying? Ve'echan hu adibor, and where is the speaking? The saying is Vayomer Elokim Aval Sarah Ishtecha. The saying is where it says, and God said, but Sarah, your wife. And the speaking is Hayad Var Hashem O Abraham. The word of Hashem came to Abraham in the covenant between the pieces. And it says Lo Yirash Chazeh. So it shows where God said and God spoke. Vayas Hashem Lo Sarah Kasher Diber Avram. God did to Sarah like he had promised Abraham. So now we come to the verse 2. Vatar Vatelet Sarah. So she conceived and she gave birth for Avram a ben Lizkunav, a son in his older years. Lamoed Asher Dibero So Elohim, at the time which God had commanded. Now, what is this time? What is this time? Rashi does not tell us what the Gemara tells us, but let's look what Rashi says. Lamoed Asher Diber Oto. At that time, De Malil Yata, which he spoke. It's Aramaic. Et Moed Diber. Hey, Elon, how you doing? Et Moed Diber Vikava. The time he spoke and fixed. Hey. What do you get? Gave blood to him? What's that?
Oh, I think I have tennis elbow from boxing. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, and you still came to learn. Wow. That's
through
so,
pain.
you're the type of Jew we need in the world. It's exactly it.
Page
I don't know what page.
6.
Yeah, we're doing the Torah reading for Rosh Hashanah. It would be amazing if you guys came in for Yom Kippur, just stayed in the yeshiva. It'd be so gavaldic.
Yom Kippur, I'm able to,
Yeah.
but we already bought seats for Hashanah. So.
Yeah, for us, yeah, but Yom Kippur, you come in here, you sleep upstairs. It'd be so beautiful. You give us a bracha.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah, and we'll give you lunch. We'll give you the break fast. We'll give you the break fast. So, okay, we don't serve lunch on Yom Kippur. That was a joke, a bad joke. I mean, unless you're sick and you need to eat.
Last year I actually did get sick on Yom Kippur. Like really bad.
Yeah. So Baruch Hashem, you're okay.
Yeah,
We're doing the Torah reading for Rosh Hashanah. So it says, he stated and fixed an appointed time. When he said to Abram, at the appointed time, I will return to you. The angel made a scratch for Abraham in the wall. And he said to Abraham, when the rays of the sun will reach this scratch, in the next year she will give birth. Now, but the problem with that is, so there's a problem with this. The problem is, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says that Abraham was born on Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yosef, maybe you can find that text. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, I think it's maybe, if I had to guess, it would be like on the bottom of like Gimel Mabeis or maybe Dalet Mabeis. That'd be my guess. So the Gemara says that Abraham was born on Rosh Hashanah, and yet Rashi says that the first time the angels came to Abraham, it was on Pesach. So how could Abraham have been born on Rosh Hashanah? That's a question that's out there because this contradicts it. When Rabbi Yosef pulls it up, we can see what it says. But anyway, so I'm just pointing out that issue. Vayamal Avram es Yitzlak beno. Vayikra Avram et Shem beno. I know it lo asher yaldalo Sarah Yitzlak. Avram called the name of his son who was born to him, who was born to Sarah, he called him Isaac. Vayamal Avram es Yitzchak beno, and Abraham circumcised Isaac his son. Ben Shmonat Yamim, he was 8 days old. Kasher tzivah to Elohim, just like God commanded him. So he circumcised him on the 8th day, just like God had commanded Abraham at the end of Parashas Lech Lecha. The Avram ben Ma'at Shana, Abraham was 100 Aleilo es Yitzchak beno, when Isaac his son was born. Tomer Sarah. Did you find the Rabbi Yosef? You look in, it's Talmud Rosh Hashanah. Abraham was born on Rosh Hashanah. Isaac was born on Rosh Hashanah. It should say it right there. So the Avram ben Ma'at Shana, Abraham was 100 years old when he gave birth to Isaac. Tomer Sarah Tzachoka Sali Elohim. Sarah said, God made for me a laughter. Whoever hears will be rejoicing for me. Rashi says, Yismachalai, they will be happy. But then Rashi gives another explanation that says the following. It says, Harbe akarot nifkedu. There were many infertile women who were remembered with and conceived along with her. Harbe cholim, many sick people in this their prayers were cured on that day. Many prayers were answered with her. A rising tide raises all the ships in the sea. It's the birth of Isaac brought a lot of heralded good fortune to the world. Lots of times when people are successful, other people are jealous or resentful, are not happy for them. But so therefore Hashem Yisbarach wanted to make sure that Isaac's birth did not give resentment to the world. And so therefore Hashem made everybody happy on that day. Everybody was rejoicing. It wasn't just Sarah. It wasn't just Sarah who was being remembered to the exclusion of others. Her joy was joy for everyone. So that's a very powerful lesson also, that we have to remember that when our friends are having success, we should be extremely happy for them, not jealous or resentful. We should be very, very happy for them on that time. Okay.
On some translations of this verse 6 kind of treats Sarah as somebody who would be the object of mocking by her fellow.
That's before she had the child, but now she has the child.
Oh, okay.
When she first heard it, she said, "You're making fun of me," or Sarah was cynical. But now she has a child. But you're right that even after she has a child, they were mocking her and saying that maybe Avimelech was the true father, because he had just come out of the time with Avimelech. So you're right about that. Okay, here we go.
Not very clear because it says B'Tishrei nodu avot, and then it says B'Pesach nolad Yitzchak. So it's
So it says, but then it says no. But
Yeah,
then it says,
Rosh Hashanah 11a, it says Passover and Pesach.
okay, fine. But here's the confusion. You're right, of course. But it says in the Gemara, it says Rosh Hashanah, Sarah was remembered. So that's not Pesach. But Rashi says that the angels came to visit Abraham on Pesach, and they made the mark. That's what I was referring to. In the Rashi, in the beginning of Vayera, it says that the angels came on Pesach, and they made the mark on Pesach. And if that would be the case, then he would be born at this time next year. But then, here in this Gemara, it says that Sarah was remembered on Rosh Hashanah. So, okay, so the birth didn't happen on Rosh Hashanah, but she conceived on Rosh Hashanah.
yeah. So that also makes sense. And it just was born premature, right?
Very premature. The commentaries discuss how could he be born so early if she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah, and if she gave birth to him on Pesach. Here. Okay. All right, anyway, we'll go on. Vatomer, and she said, Mi Milela Abraham. She said, who? She said, Mi Milela Abraham. She said, who is the one who said to Abraham, Enika vanim Sarah, Kelati ben Kunav. Sarah and her children, because I've born a son in his old age. Who had said that? Rashi says, Lashon Shevach, v'chashivut. She was praising. Re'umihu, see who is this one? Look how great he is. Shomer avtachto, he keeps his promise. Maftiach v'oseh. Now, there's another story about this that maybe Rabbi Yosef can remember also, that can find for us. There was a man in his 80s in Israel recently, never given birth, never had a child, and he just gave birth. He didn't give birth. He fathered a child in his 80s. And
I think like men can father children at any age, yeah. Like I thought the problem was like women are
it's
unable after like 40, 50, but
there's I don't think it's any age, but I think it's,
I think it's like pretty old. Like
I don't know, we'll have to look it up.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, like it's a problem, but obviously they can go much longer than much later in life than women. So he says, Mimi Enika vanim was Sarah, Kilati ben was gonna. Rashi says, Mimi well, Shina Katuv, the verse deviated. This is exactly like not exactly, but similar to what we had in last week's portion, where it says that they changed the text, that tikkun sofrim. So to here, we said Mimi Lel Abraham, who Shina Katuv Lo Amar Diber. The verse did not say spoke. Rashi says the numerical value of the word Milel is 100. Meaning to say, Sof Me'el Avram, at the end of 100 years for Abraham, Inika Vanim Sarah. Sarah gave birth to Sarah nursed children. Ma'u Banim Lashon Rabim. What's the reason for Banim in the plural? Because on the day of when Sarah gave birth, we just had this in the Gemara recently, B'yom Mishteh, Eviu Sarah Pnei Iman. All the other women brought their own children. Ve'nika banim, and Sarah nursed all of them. Shayu omrot, lo yalda Sarah el asufi avim. They were accusing Sarah of not being the mother, so she nursed them to prove she was the mother.
How old was Sarah?
Sarah was 90.
So I found the story. It's Rav Tzvi Kushevsky, 88 years old. And it's from March, so it's very recent.
It just happened.
Yeah.
It's like, and how old? And they see him dancing with the baby. And how old was his wife? How old is his wife?
His first wife, he didn't have children with. He got married second time a week after the match, and he became a father at the age of 88.
Yeah, but how old is his wife?
Oh, his second wife, about 56 years old, it says.
Okay, that's miraculous.
Yeah.
I mean, still, we give her a
And it
lot.
says, since the time of Abraham, there was not such a historical birth.
I mean, I have never heard anything like that in my life, I promise you. He's 88 and she's 56. First of all, I mean, you can't, that's a pretty courageous thing on her part to marry him. But because she's very old, but she went for it. I mean, they're saying like most 56-year-old women would say, I'm going to grow old with my husband and not going to marry a man who's 30 years older than me. And he's a rabbi. He's not like a billionaire. Sometimes you see, so she married him for his piety, obviously. And then Hashem blessed them with a baby. Is just a miraculous story. It happened. When did it happen, Rabbi Yosef?
March. So actually, it says the last line here. It says that when his son will be bar mitzvah, the Rosh Hashiva will be 101.
Yeah, and he's gonna make it. He's gonna make
March
it.
10th, 2024.
That wasn't in vitro or something like that?
Well, I mean, they don't discuss the details with us.
Yeah, the Haredim don't know to talk about that.
I know, but if it was in vitro, it's still a miracle, but it's different.
I mean, they didn't discuss it with us, but